Hello FlossTube, my name is Leann and I am leann.stitches here on YouTube and on Instagram. You can also find me as Forbidden Fiber Co. on Facebook and Instagram. Today is Monday, November 3rd, 2026. I cannot believe it's November already. And this is my 55th FlossTube. It's been 3 weeks since I filmed last. I try to film regular FlossTube updates every other week, but last weekend I was out of town for SAF, which is the Southeastern Animal Fiber Fair, and I was driving home on Monday and I was really sick. I had massive coughing and allergy problems, and it just really took me out. So I spent last week trying to rest and recuperate while working and stitching and taking care of my family. So it's been a bit of a ride the last 3 weeks, but I do have miraculously a ton of stitching to show you. I have 14 cross stitch projects that I've worked on over the last 3 weeks. I also have 3 knitting projects. I have a bunch of books to talk about. I have some shop updates. I also have a couple of small haul acquisitions, as we call them in the knitting world. I like that word better than haul. Just a couple of patterns, and I will talk about all that later. So this might be a long one. We'll see how it goes. Let's just get right to it. The first piece I have to show you, as always, is Marvel Heroes. I'll pop a picture up probably there of what it's gonna look like when it's done. I bought it from a now closed Etsy shop called Popular Cross Stitch, and here it is. This is my focus piece for this year. I am trying to finish it next year to give to my husband, and I'm attempting to stitch 50 stitches a day, but because I was so behind going into my trip last week, and then I missed a week because of my trip, I ended up stitching about 100 to 150 stitches a day at the end of October, and I almost made it to my goal of 1,500 stitches, but then I didn't end up stitching on Halloween because I took my daughter and some friends trick-or-treating and then to the haunted corn maze, and by the time I got home, I just wanted to sleep. Anyway, I have been working in this area on his head and She-Hulk's arm, which now that I look at this in the camera is pretty cool. And then I've also been working in this guy's head, and I don't know who that is. But yeah, and then I think over here, either here or here, is Punisher, and that is my husband's favorite character. So I'm really excited to get to stitch on the Punisher in a little bit. So I'm just gonna keep on with my 50 stitches a day in November on this. And then next year I'm gonna increase it to 75, possibly 100 stitches a day when I can, to finish it in time to have it framed and everything for Christmas. So I stitched 1,172 stitches on that in the last 3 weeks for a total of 78,231 stitches out of 105,200, and I'm at 74.36%. And because I am a total nerd and I like numbers, I calculated if I would make it to 75%, if I could possibly make it to 75% before I filmed, because I thought that would be neat, but no, it'll happen sometime this month. I think I've got another like 800 stitches to go. So hopefully by the end of November, I will hit 75%, and that'll be exciting. My second focus piece for the year is Sleigh Ride by Praiseworthy Stitches. And I split this up into 13 parts, and I started it on December 1st with my friends Sarah from Memphis Sarah E and Zan from Crazy Band Lady Stitches, and the goal was to stitch 1 part a month for a Christmas finish, and I have gotten way off track, and I'm trying to catch up, but now I'm not really stitching it in the sections anymore. I'm just kind of stitching it to get it done, and I'm closing in. Let's see. So I've been working in this area. I don't remember where I was the last time I showed it, but I know I stitched this whole sleigh. I still have, there's still a lantern that I have to back stitch in there, I think. Yeah. there's a lantern right there that I have to backstitch in there that I haven't done yet. But mostly I have been working in this endless snow. I think I stitched in the dog and these two sleighs. I haven't done the sleigh for that. I just did the shadow for the sleigh. I did some trees, maybe. I also extended this line, which is Petite Treasure braid. No, it's Entice something. It's a sparkly something or other. So I stitched the steps to the house because I messed up on the roof here. I don't know if you can see, but I was supposed to extend this out one more stitch. So everything from here over is off a stitch. And so there's a tree right there. And I wanted to make sure I got that tree placed correctly because it overhangs the house that's right there. So I went ahead and did the steps, and then next I'm gonna do this tree, and then I'll finish filling in all the snow. And then I'm gonna work on the house, which is right, it's this one. Yes, it's that one. Everything's backwards and it throws me off. So I'm gonna stitch this tree and then fill in the rest of the snow and stitch that house. And then I just have to bring this up, stitch Santa and his reindeer, which will probably take me longer than I think it will. It probably will take me about a half an hour per reindeer. So that's quite a few days when I'm only stitching a half an hour a day. And then just the red across. And then there's lots of little stars and stuff in here. I have to go back. And then I have to go back and add beads and stuff like that. But I'm closing in. I feel like there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And when I get this house done, I really know, like I really feel like I am gonna be there. And also the other thing I'm looking forward to is finishing the endless snow because it's been a lot. It's a lot of snow. I'm stitching this 1/2 on a 36 count Silent Night by Forbidden Fiber Co. And I'm using white DMC for the snow. And then I have kept some of the original Called For Fancy flosses, like the house, mostly anything in a house or some of these sleighs. Not this one, but some of the sleighs where I really felt like the color variation was important. I used those Called For Fancy flosses, and then the rest I just converted into fancy floss from my stash, mostly obviously Forbidden Fiber Co. Okay, so after I stitch on those two pieces, I then stitch on I spin my seasonal wheel, which I have 4 projects on there for fall, and I stitched on all of them the last 2 weeks, which was exciting. So the first one I'm going to show you is Nevermore by Leela's Studio. And I am stitching this using the conversion that we have available in the studio. We actually have a whole kit that you can stitch exactly how I have it. Ooh, I'm missing a thing. So this is a 32 count Morning Mist by Forbidden Fiber Co. And then, like I said, I converted the flosses and I'm using that conversion pack. And one thing, did I do this one? Yeah, I decided that I was tired of stitching on a paper pattern because I feel like this is a very dense stitch. And I just really enjoy counting my stitches and knowing where I'm at on a piece. So I bought the PDF of this and I loaded it into Pattern Keeper. And since I'm doing a conversion, I just went in and I picked a shade that closely resembled the shade of floss, and I wrote in the Forbidden Fiber Co. name so that I could, I didn't have to look at my conversion card every time I wanted to stitch. And so I didn't count the stitches when I was stitching. I bought it after, I think. Yeah, so I stitched on this for an hour actually that night. Well, I stitched on it for 30 minutes and then I spent a half an hour loading it into Pattern Keeper. But I didn't count my stitches on this, but I think I finished this is what I did. I finished this mandala. And then, so I can tell you though that my total is, where is it? I've stitched 2,166 stitches out of 15,443, and I'm 14.03% done. So I just like stats. I think that's cool to know. So I think this will be a lot easier to stitch on, and it also lets me set goals for next year, which I always like to have some goals. The next autumn piece that I worked on is A Parliament of Owls by Kathy Barrick. And I did not buy the Pattern Keeper version for this one. I thought long and hard about it, but ultimately it's such a small stitch that I thought I could do without counting these particular stitches. I only worked on this for about a half an hour one day, and I was still working in this section, just filling in that gold yellow color. I'm stitching this 1/2 on a 40 count granite by Forbidden Fiber Co. and I'm using all the called for DMC. The third piece in my autumn rotation is Pumpkin House by Hello by Liz Matthews. And I also got this one on Pattern Keeper because again, it's very dense stitching and I kind of wanted to know how much progress I was making. So there is where I'm at, and I worked in this house. I think I worked on some of this, and I believe I pulled that all the way to the end, and I started on this crow. And I'm stitching this 1/2 on a Forbidden Fiber Co. Silent Night using the Tiger Lily conversion floss pack that we have available in the shop. She did a really great job converting all the flosses, and I love them. So that's where I'm at. And I did purchase this PDF before I started stitching on it. So I got 216 stitches, and I am at 846 out of 9,438 for 8.96%. And see, like, I look at this and I think, wow, there's so much stitching left to do. That house is so dense, but it's only 9,500 stitches, which is, you know, considering some of my pieces are like 500,000 stitches, it's really not that much. And it just, like I said, it helps me set goals. And I don't know. The fourth piece on my autumn wheel that I stitch on Monday and Tuesdays for 30 minutes is All Hallows Eve by Jane Elliott. And I thought long and hard about getting the Pattern Keeper version to this, but I had already bought 2 PDFs and I decided I would save my budget. So it doesn't mean I won't eventually, because it's a monochromatic piece and that very much lends itself to Pattern Keeper, but that's where I'm at. And I did count how many stitches I got done, and I did 116 stitches. And I know I worked on this cat, and I think that's it. I might have worked up here a little bit, but I know I worked on that cat because I was trying to get him all finished. But yeah. Oh, the other reason why I think I didn't buy the Pattern Keeper or the PDF of this to load into Pattern Keeper is because there's lots of partial stitches and those don't always work so well. So yeah. I'm stitching this 2/2 on a 32 count opalescent. There's no colorway. It's just when I was learning to dye. This is one of the test pieces I did. The next autumn piece I worked on is Touching the Autumn Sky by Mirabilia. And this is the piece I work on Thursdays for 30 minutes. And I started this with my friend Sarah from Memphis, Sarah E, but she went ahead and finished it a long time ago. She raced through it, I think, in Mirabilia May, because she was borrowing the pattern and she wanted to give it back to her friend, which is admirable, but I'm a little bit behind her. So that's where I'm at now. And I'm just continuing across working on these leaves. And I really want to get all the way across because I really, really, really want to bring this swing down and start working on her. But I'm trying to be good and do all the fiddly bits first, because I know that I will not want to go back and do them later. So there she is. I did not write down anything on this piece. I probably worked on it for 30 minutes, but I might have worked on it twice. I had to have written down if I worked on it more than once. No, I think I only worked on it once in the last 3 weeks because I wasn't home. Before my trip, I was just too busy working. I was working like crazy that week. So I didn't stitch any Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday that week. And then I left. Same thing the next week. I stitched Monday, Tuesday, but I did not. No, I left on Wednesday. So I didn't stitch Wednesday through Monday. And then I did stitch while I was sick because I needed something to do to get out of bed. This is a 32 count Babbling Brook by Forbidden Fabric Co. and I'm using the called for DMC. Okay, so Friday through Sunday, I spend 30 minutes each of those 3 days working on one of two pieces. I rotate weekends. And while I had 3 weekends, I was gone one of them. And then this past weekend, I just didn't stitch a whole lot. So the first project I'm going to show you is Autumn Montage. It's artwork by Janet Stever. It's charted by Pain Free Crafts, but they have since retired it. So yeah. That's where I got to. I only got 225 stitches on this. I worked on it on Saturday night. Yeah, Saturday night. And like I said, Friday night I didn't stitch because it was Halloween. And then last night was Sunday, right? Yeah, I worked till I came home from church, I took a nap, I went to work, and I worked until about 7:30. And then I went and picked up my daughter from an activity she was at and came home. And I kind of crashed. I think I stitched on Marvel and then I crashed. So this did not get much stitching for its rotation this time. And I think I worked a darker color in through there. And I think I worked some lighter colors in the border. So you're probably not gonna see much change. But that is, oh, I'm stitching that 2/1 on a 28 count tent stitch. And I am at 3,356 stitches out of 248 for 2.26%. Okay, the second piece I rotate for weekend stitching is Autumn Bookshop. This was my birthday start this year. Oh, I guess I should put a picture of what it's gonna look like. I got it from an Etsy shop, but I never remember the name of it. So I'll put it in the description or on the screen. And that's where I got to. And I'm working really hard to get the letters highlighted. I really want to finish this sign as like the first thing that I do so I can look at it while I stitch everything else. So I'm kind of just working in and around these letters. I know I worked a lot of this dark up here. And I got 702 stitches done on this for a total of 3,190 out of 235,000. And I am 1.36% done. Okay, so after my 30 minutes on my seasonal rotation, I then spin another wheel for one of my year-round focus pieces that I just wanted to make some progress on this year. There's no set goal or anything. So yeah, the first piece I worked on is Once Upon a Fairy Tale. The artwork is by Amy Stewart and it's charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. And these are in no particular order. I have no idea when I worked on this. But I am filling in, I'm trying to finish this first page. It goes to about right there at the edge of this orange book. And then I don't remember where it goes down to. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. It probably goes down to somewhere over here. So I'm just working really hard to fill in all of the little confetti stitches. And I know I worked in this lamp and I worked on this book. So I'm right about here, basically here up and here over is done. And it's very slow going because this is a max color chart. So there's lots and lots of confetti. I know that one of the colors I was able to pull all the way down into here. So I did a lot in there. And I worked 169 stitches and I'm at 12,846 out of 402,000 and I'm 3.2% done. I would really, really love to have another chance to work at this and finish out this page this year. My original plan for December was to do another Christmas stitching focus, especially because I want to finish Sleigh Ride, and I have another piece that's a gift that I really need to finish that I was supposed to work on while I was out of town this fall, and that has not manifested. But I also would love to hit some of these page finishes on some of these full coverage pieces, so I don't really know what I'm gonna do. On top of that, I'm also trying to sort out some Vlogmas, which I'll talk about later, maybe if I remember. I probably won't remember because I didn't write it down, but at some point I'll talk about Vlogmas. Another piece that I worked on is the Grand Library. Artwork is by Amy Stewart, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. I'll put a picture up there. And oops. I did a middle start on this piece because I wanted to stitch the fireplace room. And so that is what I worked on. I worked on the fireplace and I got 530 stitches. I'm at 1,769 stitches out of 402,750, and I'm at 0.44%. And this is a 25 count, I think, 2 over 1/10 stitch. And I honestly don't remember where I worked. So hopefully with 500 stitches, you'll be able to tell some differences because I have no idea. I worked on this probably 3 weeks ago and I just don't remember. The next piece I worked on is, or I guess not the next piece I worked on, the next piece I have to show you is Sea Glass by Carolyn Manning. And this is gonna be my next focus on a finished piece. When I finish Sleigh Ride, this is gonna be my next 30 minutes a day. So I'll continue to work on Marvel Heroes and then I'm gonna work on Sea Glass until it's done. I have about 16,000 stitches to go. Oop. So there's where I'm at. And I just love all of the shades of teal in this artwork because teal is my favorite. This is where I'm focusing on right now. I'm trying to fill out this side so I can, like, top to bottom, so that I can just continue working down. So I just am using the typewriter method and picking a color and working it everywhere I can see it and then picking the next color. Although technically I'm not doing a 10 by 10 block because each of these squares is 9 by 9. So I'm going by that instead. Yeah, this is a really relaxing pattern to stitch on because it's all so geometrical. Is that even a word? Geometrical? Geometric? That's a word. Geometric. I got 394 stitches done on this and I'm at 9,671 stitches out of 26,244 for 36.85%. The next piece I have to show you is Words to Live by Tiny Modernist. This was a stitch along from I don't know when, but I started it in 2020, so definitely older than that. And I have the PDF for this pattern, but it will not load into Pattern Keeper, so I am just stuck with the paper pattern on this one. I'm working in this center block with the sun and the balloon and all of that. And I worked on all of this. And I did not count stitches, but I did work on it for 2 hours. So I would love to finish this center square next year. It's a pretty lofty goal. There's a lot of stitching in it, but this, after Marvel Heroes, I think this is my oldest piece, so I'd really like to start focusing on it to get it done. Oh, this is 2 over 2 on a 32 count even weave. There's not really a comparable color in my shop because it is even weave. It takes dye so differently, but if I had to do it again, I would stitch this on a black board because it's much darker and I think the colors would pop on it better. The last piece I have to show you is Enchanted Realm. The artwork is by Ann Stokes and it was charted by Heaven and Earth Designs, but it is now retired. It's actually a mini Realm of Enchantment, I think is the actual name. And I'm stitching this for my daughter, 2 over 1 full cross on 18 count. And this actually, gosh, struggling a little bit. This actually got called twice. I spun it twice because I finished my wheel and then immediately spun it again. And I am working just like with Once Upon a Fairy Tale. I'm working on completing this page. So that's where the page goes to, and I'm just filling in. And I know I worked a lot in the wings this time. I got 765 stitches done over the 2 nights, and I am at 33,299 out of 75,075 for 44.35% complete. However, That is a little bit of a lie because I cut the pattern. I have a teeny tiny printout. It's supposed to be there, but I really didn't want to stitch all that. And so I cut it somewhere around there so that's more like a square. And so all of that is marked off as done in Pattern Keeper. So my numbers don't really matter, I guess. So yeah. So that's all the stitching that I got done over the last 3 weeks. It's not a lot of progress on each individual piece, but it was a lot of pieces that I worked on, and I'm actually a little bit surprised at how much I got done because I feel like I have not been stitching at all. I've just been working and doing knitting in the car because I've been doing lots of running around. So that was kind of cool to finally see it all. I know that my next 3 weeks are absolutely insane, and I know that this week especially I'm going to be working a lot of night hours because I have lots of appointments and stuff during the day that I didn't realize I had. So I probably won't get much stitching done over the next week, but we'll see how it goes. I'm going to start in on my knitting content. So if you're just here for the cross stitch, thanks for stopping by, and I hope to see you next time. And let's talk about some knitting. It's the first project. I'm supposed to be done with this by now, but when I got sick, I kind of stopped working on it. I'm designing it as I go, and I'm just kind of doing this arch stitch with the different colors and lots of garter stitch in between. But when I designed this box, I designed it to be a rainbow fade. So you start there and it goes down. Ooh, that was fast. And so there's lots of greens, and now I'm in the blues. And this is day 11 out of 13. And I have that's day 12. And then I have this really deep purple for day 13. And then I'll be done. So I've been doing some reels on this just to show it off on Instagram. So I need to go take this in and do my little reel for the next color. And hopefully I will be done with this by the end of the week. That's my goal, so I can finish it out and start planning Advent projects, because that's going to be super exciting. Again, if I remember, I'll talk Vlogmas, but chances are I won't remember. Either that or chances are I'll start talking about books and I'll see that my video is like an hour and a half long, and I'll panic and close up and then be like, oh shoot, I should have talked about Vlogmas. Because that's the way we roll. I have this in my little project bag. This came in our Sherlock box. It says, "Elementary, my dear Watson." Next project I have is in one of my big sweater bags, and I'm so mad. I just noticed it got dirty because I had this in the car when I took my daughter and her friends to the corn maze, and it was muddy. And I think one of my daughter's friends, or my daughter, because my daughter sat in the back seat and had one of her friends sit up in the front seat with me. So maybe my daughter got it messed up with mud from the corn maze. But this is my Prospect pullover. And I was trying really hard to finish it before SAF because I wanted to show it in my booth, because this colorway is called the Gathering Hour, and it's part of the Bramble collection that I've been bringing to all my fall shows. But alas, it did show off in the booth. I just showed it with partial sleeves. So I am just now starting the second sleeve. I did finish this sleeve though, and I absolutely love the way it looks. And it looks really short, but I tried it on and it fits, and I have a really long torso, so I don't know why it's looking so short. But yeah, I love the color variations in it. They're very subtle. They're showing up a lot more on camera than they do in real life, but you've got this texture in here, and then combined with just a little bit of the color variation from the colorway. It's my happy place with hand-dyed yarn. I'm pretty sure I gave all the details on this in my last video, so I'm not going to talk about all that again just in the interest of time. But I am using a size US 6 circular needle, and I use the shorty one for the sleeve. I think I showed it to you when I showed you the sleeve. I used the shorty ones for the sleeve, and when I was dyeing a lot before the show, it was kind of hurting my hands. But now that, well, no, I'm back at dyeing a lot, so it'll probably hurt my hands when I start knitting on it again. But when I was at the show and wasn't dyeing a lot, it was fine. Okay, and so since that sweater was sitting on a dress form during the show, I needed something to do in between people coming to see me, right? So in my just one more page lies I tell myself project bag, and these are the sweater bags. I call them sweater bags. On the website they're actually called extra large. See my little zipper pull that says I love books. So this, I just have a very small start on it. This is my Avenue pullover test knit. I don't have a picture of it. I'll put it up there. It's a test knit for Tori U, and I'm doing the V-neck version. So I haven't even joined the fronts, you know, at the V. So that's how little work I got done on it. I think I cast it on Saturday and worked on it Saturday and Sunday. But that's the color. This is the color Night Triumphant. It's from the new Night Court collection that I just introduced a couple weeks ago. Again, loving the very subtle color variation. One of the reasons why I got into dyeing yarn is because flat color just is not my favorite, but I also don't like super crazy variegated yarns. I really more enjoy a tonal, what I call a tonal. Some people still call it variegated, but I really enjoy those tonal shifts, like that green from the Prospect pullover is about as variegated as I like to get on like garments. On shawls and stuff like that is different, but on garments I really don't like to get super variegated. I'm just more conservative of a dresser than that. So yeah, and I am knitting this on a US 6. I've got it on a 32-inch circular right now. I'm going back and forth, so I should probably be on a US 5 until I join it in the round. But I didn't have a 5, and I'd already been back to the shop carrying the needles twice, so it's on a 6, and we'll see how it goes. So that is my knitting content. Let's do acquisitions really fast before we get into book talk. I bought 2 patterns. One I bought in the Hade, the Heaven and Earth Design Sal. It's called Happy Village. I'll put a picture up there. And a couple of people I know are starting this on New Year's Eve, and I have been looking at Hidden Harbor by Heaven and Earth Designs for a long time, probably 2 years now. I think I have it on my wish list, and I just have never pulled the trigger on it. And this Happy Village reminds me of it. And since a bunch of people I know are starting it, I was like, sure. And there was a Halloween sale, so I got it at half off. So Leann from Small Town Stitches, Rainy from Rainy Day Reads, I think is her channel, and Alicia, and I'm blanking on her FlossTube name, but I'll put it down there or in the description box if I remember. They're all starting it, and so I am jumping on the bandwagon and starting it too on Christmas Eve. No, not Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, because why not? And then Heaven and Earth Designs announced their Sal, and I have been really good about staying out of them because I have no business joining a full coverage Sal. I just don't like to put that much pressure on myself to finish that many pieces in 1 year, and I've already got Marvel Heroes. But they sweetened the pot last week, and if you finish just 1 page on the Sal by the end of next year, Amy Stewart is creating an exclusive design, and they're calling it the Ultimate Haven for Stitchers. I love me some Amy Stewart, in case you haven't noticed, and that was enough for me to join in. I really hemmed and hawed over the patterns too, because there's actually quite a few artwork pieces this year that I really like. Ultimately, I chose Fairy Tale, which I'll put here, just because I really like all the details on it. It's not like anything else I have on the go right now. And some of the other pieces that I really, really liked when I went to the mock-up, I just wasn't a big fan of the mock-up. I really felt like it just, didn't do the artwork justice. So that's where I landed. I'm only honestly planning on doing 1 page. Would I love to do 6 pages and get all of the other pieces from the SAL? Yes, but I'm not going to stress myself out like that. If I feel it and I get all, and I get into it and I get all 6 pages done, awesome. But the chances of that are slim to none. So I'm going for the 1 page for the Amy Stewart exclusive pattern that is as yet unseen. There's also, if 1,000 people sign up, there's a bonus pattern, and I really like that one too. So if I get those 2 extra patterns, I'll be happy with that. There's one if we hit 2,000 and 4,000, and I don't really care about either of those. It's the 1,000 one and the Amy Stewart one that I like, but they're not going to tell us what the Amy Stewart one looks like till like next year. And so I guess that will be either motivation to get that page done or be like, okay, yeah, I'm done for the year. I don't really care if I get it, but it's Amy Stewart, so let's face it, I'm probably gonna want it. Anyway, I'm kind of just rambling at this point. So let's talk about books. I did a decent amount of reading over the last 3 weeks, considering I was gone for a week, and I really don't read that much when I'm out of town at shows. I will generally listen to a book while I drive, but I'm also driving with my mom, so I try not to be rude. However, the way home last Monday, we left at like 6 in the morning, so it was dark, it was raining, and we were driving on the mountain. And on top of that, it's the mountain where that road washed out after the hurricane last year, Helene. And so I told my mom, and I was coughing a lot. Every time I talked, I coughed. And driving in the rain, in the dark, while coughing, and I was driving a U-Haul van, super scary. So I told my mom when we left, I'm like, I'm gonna put in an AirPod, I'm gonna listen to a book, and I'm not gonna say a word. And she was like, that's fine. So I did listen to a good bit on the way home. But anyway, I'm not gonna talk about all the books that I read, because honestly, in 3 weeks, I don't really remember the ones that didn't make a big impression on me. But let's just get started. I think I have 10 books written down, and I'm already at 44 minutes, so we're gonna go through pretty snappy. The Girl from the Train, I didn't write down the author, but I'll put the cover up there. This was another World War II era fiction, and when I was reading this book, I realized that I could read nothing but World War II fiction for the rest of my life, and I still probably would not know even half of the kinds of things that happened during World War II. It was just that massive and that insane. And in this book, I learned that there were programs that sent German orphans, German war orphans, to South Africa to be adopted. I had no idea. There was a whole program on it. You had to be Aryan, blonde hair, blue-eyed, and they were basically sending them to South Africa to help populate the Aryan race in South Africa. And so it's about this girl, Greta, and she was actually of Jewish descent, was on a train. The train got bombed. She had escaped just before the train was bombed with her sister. And it's about her, without giving too much spoilers away, it's about her journey after that train bombing, and she ended up being adopted as an orphan into South Africa. Really, really amazing story. The second book I read, it was A Cowboy for Keeps by Jodi Headland. I've really been enjoying Jodi Headland lately. She just has historical fiction, romance type books that I've just really been enjoying. This one was the Mail Order Bride series, and you know me and some arranged marriages. So it's about this woman, Greta, that she was taking care of her sick sister and ended up signing up to be a mail order bride to a man in Colorado. He pays for them to travel by train to Colorado, and they get there and she finds out that he's dead. He had been traveling back from California, I think, or somewhere out west, and they found his body. And so she's like, great, what am I supposed to do? Well, someone in the town, I can't remember his name or what his position was, but he suggested that she marry this man, Wyatt, who is a rancher, and he's trying to build up his herd I don't remember all the details of it, but he suggested that she marry him. So it's basically their love story, and it was good. It was nothing like spectacular, but it was entertaining and it was fun. I think that might have been the one that I listened to. No, that's not it. I was going to say the one I listened to on the way home, but that's not it. It was a different Jody Hidlin book. Next book I read was called Edge of Collapse, and it's by Kyla Stone. And this is like a thriller, mystery, suspense. Suspense is the word I'm looking for. And basically it's the story of an EMP being unleashed on the United States, and it's winter in it's not in the Upper Peninsula, but it's basically in the wilds of Michigan. And it's the story of Hannah, who had been kidnapped 5 years ago and held hostage by this crazy guy that did not nice things to her. She's pregnant, and he had completely broken all of the bones in her hand as she tried to kill him and or escape. And so she's got this hand that is unusable. And when the EMP goes off, it unlocks the door where she's being held hostage, and the kidnapper had been out. And so she ransacked the house, got all the supplies she could, and left. And she got some cross-country skis, and so she's trying to escape. And while she's out there and basically she has given up, she meets Liam, who is an ex-military guy, and I don't remember what he's out doing, but he basically takes her and helps her escape, and they're going, and the kidnapper guy is chasing them across the wilds of Michigan in the snow. And it was really interesting, and it's part of a series, and I have the next book checked out from the library already, but I haven't started listening to it. It's only 2 hours, so I guess it's one of an in-between novella or something. But I got stuck on another couple of authors that I'll talk about in a second. The next book I read is called Love Unexpected. It's another Jody Hidlin book, and I actually read another one in between there, but I don't remember enough about it to actually talk about it, so there's that. This one is another arranged marriage one, and you know how I like arranged marriage books, and it's about this girl, Emma, and she is with her brother, Ryan, and they are trying to get to a better life, and their boat sinks, and she ends up in this tiny town, and there's this guy, Patrick. He's widowed. He has a son who's 2, I think, but he is in charge of the lighthouse, and he is really struggling to raise his son and, you know, stay up all night in the lighthouse taking care of the boats going down the river. And so a pastor, I think he was a traveling pastor, suggests, hey, you guys should get married. Emma needs a home. You need someone to take care of your son. This will work out great. So it's about them getting married and eventually falling in love. So yeah. The next book I read was The Inmate by Frida McFadden, and this was actually our book club book for the year, the month, and we were supposed to get together and talk about it last Tuesday, but I was too sick, and Kelly was sick too, so we moved it to tomorrow, so we haven't talked about it yet. But Frida McFadden is an author I've been wanting to read for a really long time. I've just heard such good things about her book. I've also heard not so good things about some of her books, but one of my friends really loves her and has been reading everything. So I got it on Kindle Unlimited, and I was like, hey, I need a suspense book for the month of October because that sounds perfect for FlossTube, for book club. So I read it, and it's about this woman, Brooke, who gets a job working at a prison as a nurse, and she has hidden the fact that one of the inmates is her boyfriend from when she was a teenager, and he had tried to kill her, and she got him sent away to prison, and he is now a prisoner here. When they say psychological thriller, like, they mean it to a T, because this book had so many twists and turns. Like, I really didn't know which way was up anymore, and just when you think you've got it figured out, forget about it. It changes again. And it was so amazing that I went on to read 2 more by Frida McFadden. And then I was like, okay, I need a break. So I definitely recommend. I wouldn't call it 5 stars, but it's a solid 4.5. And like I said, it got me to read 2 more. So the next book I read was The Perfect Son. And that's the one that my friend had said was her favorite. And that's the story of Erica, and she's married, and she has a son, Liam. She has a daughter too, but it centers around her son, Liam, who she thinks has psychotic tendencies, like sociopathic tendencies, by him hurting animals and other kids in his class and telling lies and things like that. And so she like freaks out about anything he does and tries to keep him out of trouble. Well, a girl disappeared, and it was a girl that he was interested in. And he was seen with her, like the last person seen with her in the middle of the night at her house when he was supposed to be asleep. And he had lied about it and said, well, I was just taking a walk, and neighbors had put him at her house. And so basically it's the story of them trying to figure out what happened to this girl. And again, twists and turns, and just, you know, the thing that gets me is that she ties it all up in a nice little bow. The bad guy gets caught, goes to jail, dies, whatever. And then she writes an epilogue, and it's like, whoa, so what happens? And it just leaves it open-ended. And that's, yeah. So after that, I read The Locked Door. And that is about a woman, Nora, who her dad was basically a serial killer, and he did all of his killing in their basement behind the locked basement door that she was never allowed to go in. They called him the handyman because he surgically removed the hands of his victims. He's in prison, and there's a copycat killer. And so that's what this book was about. And again, it was not a 5-star book by any means, but really good. And after that, I couldn't decide which book I wanted to read next. So I was like, let me take a break. And there is a series called the Timeless series, complete opposite. Let's go to the complete opposite end of the spectrum of books now. It's a historical fiction series. It's a Christian historical fiction series written by Gabrielle Meyer. The 6th book, I believe, is about to come out, or like tomorrow. And so I've been seeing this series pop up on all of my favorite BookTube channels again. And so the first 3 books were in Kindle Unlimited, and I'd had the first one downloaded for a while. And I was like, you know, I'm just going to see, let me just get into it because the new one's coming out. So if they're all in Kindle Unlimited, that's great. I can read them. And I can also download them on Kindle Unlimited, and then I can buy the Audible audiobook for like $4 or $5. And so I've been flipping back and forth. I've been listening to it while I work and stitch, and then I've been reading at night in bed. So the first book is When the Day Comes. The whole concept about this series is that there are these women who are gifted with the ability to time cross, and it's all set for them. They don't get to choose, but basically they are born into 2 different times. And they go to sleep in the first time, and they wake up in the second time. And basically while they're sleeping in the first time is their life in the second time. Then they go to sleep in the second time, and they wake up in the first time, and no time has passed. So nobody knows that they're time crossers, except for the fact that they have a birthmark of either on their chest or the back of their neck. And that is passed down from parent to child. So the first book, When the Day Comes, is about Libby. And she lives in 1774 Colonial Williamsburg, right before the American Revolution. And her family are printers. And so they're awarded the public printing contract. So they're printing all of the state political things, and eventually are printing the Patriot, like for Thomas Jefferson wrote the document that made them choose him to write the Declaration of Independence, and they printed that. And so it's weird that they're just friends with Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, and they just use their names like you would use Tommy from down the street. It's really, it's crazy. But, and then, okay, so her second life is 1914, and she's, it's the Gilded Age in New York City, right before World War I. And she comes from a wealthy family, but she and her mom do not get along. Her mom is very controlling and wants her to marry up in society. And so she very much wants to stay in 1774. But things happen, and yeah, and you get to see the beginning of the American Revolution. You get to see the beginning of World War I. It's just, it was very good without giving any spoilers as to what happens. Amazing. Like, I gave it 4.5 stars for sure. Immediately started the second one. In this moment is Maggie, who is Libby's daughter, without telling you anything that happens in the first book. This is Libby's daughter, and she actually has 2 marks. She got the one over her heart from her mother and the one on the back of the neck from the father. So she lives 3 separate timelines. 1861 in Washington, D.C. during the beginning of the Civil War. 1941, she lives in Virginia, Williamsburg, but she ends up on a hospital boat to Pearl Harbor just before it's bombed. And so she's there for the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And then her third life is 2001 in Washington, D.C., right before 9/11. So 3 huge events in American history, and she's living them all. And it's just, again, like, hangs out with Abraham Lincoln, no big deal. But I think that has been my favorite one so far. And then the last book I read, I literally just finished it last night. It's called For a Lifetime, and it follows Hope and Grace, who are twin sisters, and they are living in 1692 during the Salem witch trials, and in 1912, and they're very involved in the first airplanes. And Hope is a pilot and is trying to be the first woman to do several different things and raise money for their parents' orphanage in DC to try to save it. So that I have always been fascinated with the Salem witch trials. I don't know why. Couldn't tell you, but like, if there was an opportunity when I was in high school or in college to read something about the Salem witch trials for credit, that's the book I was always choosing. Like, I voluntarily read The Crucible my junior year. I'd read it when I was a freshman, but I switched schools and they were not as academically advanced as my first school. So it popped up again my junior year. And I was like, sure, that's the one I'm going to read. So I really enjoyed that one. However, so far in this moment is my favorite. Now, the next book, the 4th book, is not on Kindle Unlimited. So I'm kind of on the, do I pay $10 for the book? Because then I also have to buy the Audible book to listen to it. I'm not there yet, but I'm about to go to work, and chances are I'll probably buy the Audible book so I can listen to it while I work. But yeah, that is all the reading I've done. Shop updates. Next week, and I cannot believe it's next week, I'm headed to Birmingham for the Alabama Fiber Fest. It's my last fall show of the season, or my last show of the fall season. I'm excited. My husband's actually going to come to this one with me so he can help me, because it's an outdoor event. I have to put up a pop-up tent, so he's going to help me with that. And so I am just working like crazy for that. We're a little behind on Advent boxes because everybody has been out sick. I was out sick. Kelly was out sick. Lori, who is our, she does most of our shipping, and she also randomly dies a few things here and there. She was out sick last week. Our part-time teenage helper, she was out on vacation last week. So it's been fun, but the, cross-stitch Advent boxes are just about to ship. We printed all the labels on Friday so we could get everything organized. So they should be shipping tomorrow, I'm gonna bet. And then I am finishing up the last of the dyeing for the yarn Advent boxes. They should be going out on Friday as scheduled. Fingers crossed. And then we start on our Hobbit inspired boxes. All of these boxes are pretty much sold out. We might. Okay, so that was my phone dying, telling me that you have been talking too long and you need to get back to work. So the last thing I was going to say is part of my shop update. I don't remember what I was talking about when the phone died, but we did just put up our Valentine's Day boxes. We're going to have a really short pre-order for this one, maybe 3 to 4 weeks, because of being closed for the holidays. We need to make sure to get everything ordered in time to make them when we get back from being closed for Christmas. So Valentine's Day box is going to be 10 Things I Hate About You inspired, and I'm so excited about this theme because it is one of my favorite movies of all time. So if you like mystery boxes and you like that movie, go check it out. We do have a cross stitch and a yarn version available as always. It's not going to be a countdown box. It's just going to be one of our regular mystery boxes with a skein of yarn and a cross stitch pattern in separate boxes, obviously, and lots of extra goodies. So yeah, I have to go get my teeth drilled at the dentist, and then I have to go dye some yarn. So I will talk to you later. I hope you are having a great week, and I will talk to you later. Bye.